Okay, you're all set from our conversation today. So today I'm going to talk about the Internet of Things, wireless connectivity, and cybersecurity considerations. So thank you, Burka, so much for that sort of explanation on IoT. So now I'm going to sort of give you some things to think about when it comes to the actual security of these devices, and we'll ideally learn a little bit about them. So a little bit about the agenda. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, and we're going to use a lot of stories today. So this is going to be a story about water, talk about something that we all do, which is, use potable water all the time. Then we'll go into how the devices connect, then how we secure those connections, and then we get a little dramatic. So it's like, what we can't see can kill us. And then, but however, there is a way out. So we'll be able to do a demo and sort of give you an idea as to how we can see what's out there with different solutions, and then answer any questions with Q&A. I will say one of my colleagues actually from Palo Alto Networks is joining us today. So Jay is also an expert on IoT for Palo Alto Networks. So if you have any questions, he has a lot of color. He's been doing it for a long time. So I'll also he's going to chime in as well. So a little bit about me, Miami native. So I went to Braddock High School here, University of Miami. I took some time and sort of traveled to the West Coast, lived there for a while, as well as Australia and Chicago. So I've been in the tech industry for about 13 years. I worked at Citrix, Cisco, VMware, and now I'm at Palo Alto Networks as a named account manager for education. And I'm pretty much, just passionate about technology, AI, IoT. Love my little friend here, and always I'm happy to be part of the WiTVoices program, and really happy to be able to talk to you guys today about IoT and pretty much gather any feedback on my presentation. So that's also very welcome. So once upon a time, in a water plant far, far away, which is not actually that far, it was actually near Tampa. So what happened there was, if you remember, we had a Super Bowl back then, 2021. Everybody was excited going to Tampa for the Super Bowl. And a hacker just decided that he was going to pollute the water system in the water facility to make a lot of people sick. So what he did was he used, he basically decided to use a program. And this is sort of like the report here, sort of like what happened, right? But he used TeamViewer was sort of like the program that he used to access the system, this water plant. And the system was running, but it hadn't been doing anything for 6 months. So it was easy for him to just go in and sort of change the levels of the water. So basically, the hacker was able to, like, the intent was to adjust the level of water of the sodium hydroxide more than 100 times the level that it's supposed to be, right? So how many of you guys have drank tap water before, even by mistake? Right? So, again, we have a Super Bowl, we have a ton of people here in Tampa, in the Tampa area, sort of wanting to have a great time. And then there's bad people out there trying to target these systems because they know how vulnerable they are. They know how easy it is for them to go in and make those changes. So, a lot of companies came into the rescue, and luckily for this story, it didn't have any sort of negative impact on the individual's health. But actually my colleague was sort of part of the process. So I do want to sort of give you a floor so you could paint a little picture about how your experience.
The experience was like for us, when it was kind of like post. So we said, hey, what happened and how can we prevent this from happening? Well, OT systems, they're very friendly. They're just devices to go. They don't try to protect themselves in any way. People access them and try to do bad things, right? Sometimes it's not even external, it can be internal. So the problem is we don't know what they're doing. Yeah, that time you just put them out there, set them, and forget them, and then you just hope and for the best. So they take advantage of that. So when we saw that, we came in post and he said, "Hey, there's not a lot of visibility on this. It was not nobody knows what these things are doing, or how they're doing it. So what do we do?" So that's where we came up with a kind of response and type of framework to actually work with the teams and say, "Hey, there's a lot of these things out there in the private, public, everywhere. You see these different fears. Like when we have like governance around the general sense of IT, why don't we look at IoT as these type of devices that we need to have some type of governance around it? We try to use some type." So we worked with other, at that time, I was working for another company. We worked with other companies together to help build this cohesive framework that everybody can work upon to help better secure these devices. Still being implemented. Tell you what, it's been a while, and we don't see a lot of versions around it. I don't know why, but we were part of our framework out helping people to bring awareness to this. That we're actually talking about it today.
Yeah, because so we had a coffee conversation and he told me this story. And of course, as a technologist, I'm like, oh my God, can you believe this? Like, we all drink tap water. My kids, every day I bathe them. They're like, all over the place, right? So it's like, it's crazy to know that there's people out there that are like wanting to hurt other people, and how IoT is great, but it also, has a risk, right? Talking about water, I think that there's some water. Oh my goodness. Anyway, yes, it's all good. It's all good water. Oh my God, now we're all paranoid. That's what happens when you talk about cybersecurity.
It's zero water.
But anyway, the other point is this is not the only place where this happens, right? Like this is just one story that happened in Florida, but there is just, we do see this on a massive scale. And basically, what is it like? It's fairly easy for them to maybe crack passwords that have never been changed before, or access remote systems that were there and nobody knew that they weren't used anymore. So that it's good to talk about it. So thank you, Jay, for saying that, because it's these are things that we don't think about. You just drink the water, right? So it's nice to know, hey, you have remote access software like TeamViewer, like what happened in this case, and hey, know that it's good to monitor these things so that they don't happen again. So basically, the FBI and CISA, usually they've seen a lot of sort of U.S. water, wastewater facilities that have experienced limited physical disruptions, right? So it causes problems, right? If you're not able to access your water, you don't have water, and you don't know what happened. I mean, for the most part, you're not going to know, right? And this is just one example, but in the example that we put earlier is, yes, okay, like a bad actor came in and they try to do that, right? But there are examples where, we were talking yesterday and preparing for the presentation, and there was another case, with a cruise line as an example. And, somebody was doing something and they just happened to sort of turn off the air. And in there, they turned off the air, and then what happened was it turned off the air for the whole entire ship, right? So then you have the problem that it's something internal. Like it's not malicious that this person is trying to adjust something and they don't know that it's affecting something else, right? So how do we have that visibility? How do we control these things from happening, right? It'll make more sense when I do the demo piece, so you'll be able to sort of see the visibility piece. But before we do that, how do devices connect? It's good to sort of talk about all of these devices. How do they connect?
When you need 101, my battery will soon need charging.
Right? So actually me and my friend here, we would be on a sort of personal area network, right? So you want to think about the length of like a school bus would be sort of a nice area, right? So we have, our watch and all those sort of devices that would connect in sort of like a smaller area. Then over that, then you would go to 100 meters, which would be kind of the length of a football field, going back to our sort of football analogy, but that would be a local area network. So when you hear that, that's sort of what connects your homes and your home internet, things of that sort. And then from there, you go into a neighborhood area network. So that's close to about 15 miles. So if you want to think of, obviously, that length and then wide area network. So, everybody talks about wide area network. That's pretty much worldwide, right? So what covers the whole entire world. And what happens is, those connections, how they happen. Usually when you go to your home Wi-Fi, you'll see that there's always two options. You have a 2.4 gigahertz or you have 5 gigahertz. So, it's all about the wavelengths, right? And then how they change. So the 2.4 for the majority IoT devices would connect in sort of longer and it would just have more range, but it's not as powerful. Whereas the 5 is shorter and we probably will get better throughput, right? So, and here's sort of like an idea as to sort of what devices connect to which one, right? So if you have a 2.4, for the most part, it will be a larger area coverage, better penetrating through solid objects. So if you have, Wi-Fi and you have maybe a concrete wall, it'll be harder for like a 5 to go through the 2.4. And so on and so forth, right? But these, as mentioned before, these devices are very friendly and they want to connect, right? So that's why it's sort of it's important for us to have the knowledge that it's important for them to be secure. So in understanding how those connect, how do we do that? How do we secure them? So the first thing is to be able to see from the device, right? Like, look at the posture, what type of device is it? What is it running? What operating system? And we'll give you a better visual once we do the demo. But ideally, what we're able to see from those devices, what applications are being leveraged, how many subnets, what vulnerabilities. And then having that, for the most part in IT environments, these IoT devices are not necessarily managed by the IT department. So knowing that you first need that visibility to know that if anybody plugs anything into your network, you can see that there's something new that you didn't even know that, maybe Joe is adding like a Ring camera that, he just happened to think it was cool, but maybe it's not supposed to be there because it could be a vulnerability. So, in that, how do we secure the IoT attack surface? And this will sort of make more sense once we do the demo, but there is a risk score, right? How risky is it? What is if there is a CVE, how is it critical? Is it medium? Like, what is sort of the impact and how bad is it? And also, how do we discover these devices? And what characteristics do they have? So, again, this will make more sense once I do the demo. So let me go ahead. I have the final critical slide of like what you can't see if you kill us, which is the truth. Oh, sorry. I'm just gonna switch the computer. Yeah. So so from here, I'm gonna go ahead and switch computers that are from my demo. There's no reason doing work today. So thank you, Jane, for being an ally, helping out. Right? Just give it a minute. Right on time for the demo. All right. So what this is, obviously there's a lot of companies out there that are able to sort of monitor IoT devices and give you information. This is one example. So this is a solution by Palo Alto Networks for IoT security. So taking into your mind, if I was an administrator and going back to our water plant example, I'm not, I'm responsible for all the IoT that sort of happens in the water plant. I would, let's just say, partner with Palo Alto Networks, and then I would have access to this, right? So I would have a username and password that I come in, and then my job is to pretty much secure the assets. I would log in, and this would be sort of a view of what I would see if I was that kind of person, right? So I would log in here, and then I would have a dashboard. And then what does this dashboard sort of tell me? What kind of visibility would the solution give me? It would tell me right off the bat, you know what? There's 5 new devices that are in your network, right? So if I go in here, as mentioned before, that's sort of a red flag, right? Like you want to be like, okay, well, somebody plugged in 5 devices that I'm not aware of that are not tagged in the way that they should be in my network. What are they? What are they doing? Are they malicious? Are they not? Can I block them? What do I do with them? Right? So, right off the bat, you would be able to just see, what those devices are. And if you did want to take any actions towards either allowing it to stay there or blocking it, you would be able to do that from the platform. So that, it gives you that visibility. So that's one example. From here, I'm going to go into just in the main view and under devices, I see here there's a Siemens HMI device that I'm going to click into. So sort of going back to what we were talking about, we would want to see I forgot. I was supposed to move. So we would be able to see the profile of the device, also its IP address, MAC address, but more importantly, I'm going to highlight here the operating system. So I picked on this device because it's running a Windows CE 6.0, which I'm not an expert, but it's a very old operating system that it's been, there's no support for it. Like if you have this out there, good luck, because if anything happens, you don't really have a way to just secure any of it, because it's probably, there's no patching, and it hasn't been patched in forever, right? I mean, so it could sort of allow that this device to be vulnerable to what you're doing. So what, now that we have sort of this information, then how do we see, hey, what is talking to what? This is sort of like the communication that's happening. This is external and this is internal. So if you see changes, this would be sort of like the only way that you could monitor, hey, this device is out there. It's really old. It doesn't really have a way for me to update it so that it's secure. But I would be able to see the communication within it, so that if it's not supposed to be talking that much, I would get an alert and I would be able to know, hey, I'm not supposed to, this device is causing, there's something wrong. Like the communication's not right, or somebody is talking more than it's supposed to, because as mentioned, that the IoT devices are very friendly and they're supposed to talk somewhat, but if that is excessive, that it could be a third party trying to cause a problem there. So this is a good example of that. And then, so you can see the behavior from here. You can also see the different alerts, right? So if you see any abnormal information, it would come out here. And as mentioned before, if you have any vulnerabilities. So, these CVEs, what they are is, I'll give you sort of a concrete example. When I was at VMware as an engineer, we had a Log4j vulnerability, which was, all of these sort of companies were using this log, and that log was compromised. So it had been around since the 80s. Like nobody even knew that this was a problem. And then somebody just decided to tamper that. And then any company that used that log and referenced it was vulnerable because they had attacked that database, right? So basically what these CVEs, like what they are, is like, they'll give you that information. Hey, by the way, this is critical. You need to change the way that this log is talking to your systems. That would be sort of an example. And then this would give you an idea, what is the risk? Is it high, medium? And then if you did want to take an action, you would just go in here and then resolve it, or sort of like take action, and as to like being able to stop it. And then also you'll be able to sort of see the attributes of the actual machine. So if you wanted to sort of see anything in detail, you could. This would show you sort of the alerts as well. And, so as an example, if you see that devices are talking to each other and they're not supposed to have all this communication, you would be able to get an alert. And then from there, you would be able to make a determination if you want to stop it or not. And then, lastly, I'll go into vulnerabilities as well. So you would sort of like have an idea as to, hey, what are my critical vulnerabilities and how can I map them? So you would be able to have that visibility right away. and then, from there go to high and then medium and work on those, right? So again, this would be if I was a system administrator, sort of like handling just that. But the point of me showing this demo, and again, it's very high level, but it's just to give you an idea that yes, that we do have these IoT devices, but they do connect to everyday life. And we want to ideally like have the visibility to be able to manage those connections and know that we can secure them. So, so from here, I'm going to go into any questions. Any questions anyone has? Yes.
So where does that layer of security reside? And then kind of like where Wanda explains that, like middleware, where is it placed? This software, this like security software, where is it placed in the stack?
That's a good question. Maybe.
So you would have these are when you're looking at this information, like say this would be an industrial manufacturing floor. This would actually be on the floor. So it would have your OT systems and you have your IT systems long time ago or before they were separated. Now as we merge them together, we're not very good, we're doing a good job of creating job boundaries, let's say that. This would be sitting in that boundary and sitting more on the OT side. And it would see all that traffic.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Is this only for enterprise companies, or is this can it be implemented also for small, medium, or even its consumers?
Yeah, my understanding is that it's a license, right?
It's for enterprise. I think for consumers, that's a great question. I think that's not only the challenge for everybody here. If you can come up with a product for consumers to actually use, because this is expensive. Let's say for a consumer, we can't get access to this, and it's a concern for everybody. I think that's a very valid point.
See, you come here for a talk and you go home with a product idea.
I know.
I don't know. I think everybody here has the energy to make a product that's better than everybody else. I'm sitting here still trying to figure out how to make this one better.
Thank you.
Something first, and then you can tweak it, and you use that configuration scan system.
So vulnerabilities come out every day.
Yeah.
So they come out a lot, and sometimes I just saw what had popped up from my old company called Prep, and that vulnerability that came out just happened, and it's before we never looked at it as like some vulnerabilities are not like malicious, like somebody creating something. It's just like, oh, we just happened to discover in this IP stack, your internet protocol stack, these things now it's really bad. So then they say, hey, there's new vulnerability that's without any publishing. So it changes every month.
Is there any monitoring list set by government that we have live?
Great question. So different governments have different lists. Like I'll take the UN. The UN has what's called IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which creates a mandated list for all the ships that you see traveling, traversing the world. That supports what it's called our MTS system, which is our Maritime Transportation System, which is the $9 trillion. But that's our bloodline. Like all the things that come off the ships, get into the train, to the trade, delivered to everywhere else. So that's the bloodline of our society and how we function. They had a mandate to have IMO compliance for cybersecurity in 2022. They extended it because everybody said, hey, we're not ready. So they extended 2023. And then they extended it to 2024 because everybody keeps on pushing back and all the big maritime companies keep on pushing it back. And it's simple stuff like know what you have on your network, know what software is on the asset itself, and how they talk. And that's everything that Diana was pointing out. They won't do that. And they create the framework, but it's up to the local governments, like here, the federal government and state governments and even country governments to enforce it. They say, this is the framework. You have to enforce it. How each government enforces, that's the question. So unless the scanner looks for vulnerability, it just looks like for those CVEs. But if that device that she was pointing out starts talking different, starts creating new relationships, that's not going to do that. For vulnerabilities, next to scam is like a point in time. This is continuous, actually real time. So the next scanner, we run it every week or month or however many times it is. To me, something might happen and you won't be able to capture it. Right? Post.
Sorry. No.
That gave us some fun event.
Right? Yeah, I'm sorry. I had too much time on my hands yesterday. What name of them does it have? I'll share the right.
On the next, with the next system. So this is passive. This is something I want to point out very important for everybody when you change.
Jay, I'm stepping
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
here because
Yeah.
we're missing like
So
the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's very important to understand that for IT and OT, there's two different mentalities, right? So with IT, we do a lot of aggressive things. We'll do blocks, we'll change things, we'll do VLANs and all those, cybersecurity frameworks that we talked about. We do that a lot there, and we don't think too much about it. OT, you cannot. You go into any plant operations, a nuclear plant, a ship, anything, and you say, I'm going to do something, I'm going to connect to your network, but with less extent, they'll kick you out of the room because safety of operations and operational availability are primordial. Because if you take out a system, you can create an unsafe working condition or unsafe condition that could kill someone. Let's be blunt about it. It could kill somebody. Just like the water sensor they were pointing out, if they change it, they change value, it could be that Tatiana came in with an Nexus scanner and sent that sensor to a panic mode where it blocked it or bricked it. And it's just flooded the system with chemicals. And then that would be unsafe. So you have to do it very passively. When we talk about OT, like industrial OT, it's passive monitoring. It's just sitting off to the side. It's not in line with the traffic. It's just listening. All this is being done passively, listening to the network and seeing it, and taking the packets, ripping them apart and saying, what is this? Or what is it going?
And you have pictures, right?
Oh, sure.
Yes. I don't want to
Sure.
touch your video. But it's
Yes.
always a picture's worth of 1,000 words. So I think,
Sure. So I'm going to show you this picture. This is a picture I took on Symphony of the Seas. This is the engine control room for the ship. So the engine control room, this is the heartbeat of the ship. Every ship nowadays is like a living city, right? So you have your energy generation, consumption, everything for everybody to exist is on that ship. This is how they see their engine. This is down in the bowels of the ship. And everything here was an independent system that controls every system independently for like the engine power generation, the propulsion, the navigation, everything is then controlled independently. And then on the top part, where the engine, the navigation is, that's where they control other parts of it. So there's two main parts of the ship. Now, if you look at that ship, that big giant ship, you actually steering with that, those little knobs. That's how you steer that big giant ship. Now, one thing, what was the point I was going to get to?
they made a story. So we were talking about a story yesterday that somebody, they had to, yeah, it alerted, the system proactively alerted the captain that there was going to be a problem, and that the captain didn't do anything about it, and then it said he had to do the manual for just the ship.
So that's very important. Yeah, thank you for that. So the ship, we were on the shore side. We were seeing on the system saying, hey, there's a packet alert. Something was malformed packets. Something was going on. We told the ship, hey, there's something going on with your ship. Go check it out. They went on it with the electrical engineer and the safety officer went to this unit and said, you see it's fine. They see green lights. And they just say, look at that. And they see a green light. They say, it's fine. It's working. But we're starting to see a lot an increase of not formed packets, a behavior change. And we're like, this is not fine. Something's going on. Long story short, they're underway in the middle of the Atlantic. The system shut down.
Mm.
It was a navigation system. So they had to do what's called manual charts. When they go to manual charts, that's a big event because then they have to, we're Coast Guard, the maritime organizations, we had to go to manual mode because we don't have navigations. And when they come into shore, like when they approach shoreline from 3 miles out, they have to follow certain channels and certain ways to come in. And if they don't have that plotted out in everything they took, they're liable. So they have to do that by hand, just like you saw like in the old days with a compass and a ruler. They had to do that. We were able to see that failure happen a week ahead of time.
Mm.
So knowledge and that visibility of seeing these things is very key.
So I mean, all these stories, right? It's obviously we're not on a ship every day, but it's we could be on a cruise and when something they turn our air off, or if we have them drinking water that we're not supposed to drink that has changed quality, right? So at the end of the day, visibility is key, and with that, thank you so much. Any other questions?
Yes, what does that OT say? Operational?
Operational technology. That's another problem we have today still. We have IoT, Internet of Things, and then we have OT, which is operational technology. Think of OT as things that can affect the physical world, that can impact the physical world, like power plants, ships.
All right, so we're gonna take a 15-minute break again.